Hello and welcome to another episode of ZenChats. Today I'm here with a very special guest, Jason Michael Primrose. He is the author of The Lost Children of Andromeda sci-fi book series and is working on many fascinating and fun things, including merging into the NFT space, which we're going to get into. But before that, just welcome. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. Before we sort of jump into the NFT stuff, I'd love to know just a bit more about you, the person behind the Lost Children of Andromeda, and sort of what your background is, sort of creatively, professionally, how you got into sort of writing a sci-fi book. That's not something most people do. So how did that sort of come about in your life?
Yeah, actually, I started writing when I was really young. I was 9 years old.
That is young.
And this is my first book because I always keep it with me.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see it, but yeah,
yeah.
this is
Now it
Dragon
is. Yeah,
Wars.
that's amazing.
This is the book that I wrote when I was 9. And it became this like series. When I was about 13, I started writing the rest of the books. I was like, oh, there's like aliens and more dragons, and there's this wars in this other galaxy. So I pretty much wrote the entire series when I was a kid. And then I put it in a drawer because that's what people do when they don't know how to publish books. Um, and so I've been writing my whole life. I've been writing the story my whole life. But in between that, I went to college, dropped out because I didn't like the English curriculum and started planning fashion shows. Then I moved to LA so I could thinking I wanted to plan fashion shows and ended up getting into experiential marketing and influencer marketing. And
Hmm.
then I got into brand development, worked for a lot of startups. I started a jewelry company with a few friends. We scaled that. I worked at a clothing company and like reimagined their whole online presence and social media and content strategy. I worked for Will I Am at an artificial intelligence company, which was very interesting.
Wow.
I was like working with my boss and I were in charge of like the influencer and culture section. So we worked with a lot of really cool, talented influencers and thought leaders. And then I went on to do experiential design and influencer integration for I worked with a few agencies. I've worked with like startup brands to
That's
big
wild. Yeah.
global brands, but it was all storytelling. So it was always like telling the story of the experience, or telling the story of the campaign or the product or the show, whatever it was. I was always telling stories. And at some point, I was kind of like, I just want to tell stories for myself. So how do I make
Mhm.
that happen? And the pandemic actually presented a unique opportunity to dive really deep into that because everything else went away very
Mhm.
quickly.
Wow, I mean, that's just an eclectic background. I think you've worked in so many different fields and areas. I think AI with will.i.am is that takes the cake. That's
That
I
was
was not
that was like
expecting
the
that one.
most that was the craziest. I mean, the things that we got to do there and the things that I learned about artificial intelligence, where we were going with it, actually really informed my writing and the story as well.
What
So
what
what
kind
we
of stuff were you doing? Was it using artificial intelligence to enhance storytelling or something else?
No, so there we were looking to create contextual artificial intelligence, so that AI that would have conversations with the
Oh, yeah.
user without context. So thinking about the progression of that, right, is where kind of sync came into play, which is one of the devices that we're releasing in a few weeks, next week, this week. And
Time
so
is weird. Yeah.
time is weird. Time doesn't work the same as it does everywhere else in 2052. But yeah, so thinking about that, it's like, whoa, how actually will we communicate with artificial intelligence 30 years from now? They'll probably be like talking to a person,
Mhm.
like kind of like like maybe a friend, maybe a frenemy, depending on
Yeah.
your relationship with the technology. So I kind of I found that really interesting, but I learned a lot there, and it just reaffirmed that along the path, every place that I worked, even though it seemed kind of random, there was always something that mattered about me being there at that time and how it informed what I did later.
Yeah, that's just it's fascinating to think about, as you said, like, how we'll interact with artificial intelligence in the future because it's undeniable now that, the technology is just gonna continue advancing and it's gonna be more integrated in our lives. You mentioned the year 2052, that's where sort of the universe takes place in for Lost Children. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's where we start to experience the countdown to the apocalypse. Um, And so that's where 2050Z Time and Salvation, which is the novel that was published in July of last year, that's where that story kind of kicks off.
Mhm.
And even though that is the year, we don't use years anymore to measure time because there's not going to be a year after that. It's
Hmm.
just 215 days left, 214
Yeah,
days left. So yeah.
that's scary to think about. It's a excellent storytelling, world building theme, I guess. Yeah. What? So you really started digging into sort of your own writing and storytelling at the start of the pandemic, and so it's been God 2.5 years now, 2.5 years. When did you sort of look at Web3, NFTs, and just become aware that there was stuff happening in this sphere, and then sort of like yeah, like when did that sort of enter your life, and what was that? What was your origin story? I always like to ask of your origin story to NFTs. What was that like?
This is such a great question. Okay, the year was 2019. So I started publishing books in 2016. They
Hmm.
just weren't very good. So I did my first Kickstarter in 2018, and in between the first Kickstarter and the second one, I had a friend who was from Europe, already like deep into investing all this stuff, and he said, "You need to turn your book artwork into NFTs." He told me that in
Hmm.
2019. So I go
Wow.
on, I have a list of things. I had looks rare, rareable, all this stuff, and I was like, I cannot deal with this right now. This is just too much for me. I'm trying to write a book. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't figure out like another tool or mechanism. Um, but but I was making NFTs the whole time. Like the
that's
book is
very
full of
crazy.
images, and we have an entire soundtrack for the novel. So every piece could have been, some kind of
Hmm.
unique or rare thing. So in January of 2021 was when I really got on Clubhouse and was like asking questions.
Mm.
And I was like, look, you got to just tell me what this is. How do I get started? How do I mint? Everything. So the first thing we came up with was we had these little character cards that were part of the Kickstarter. So we actually minted those
Mhm.
on OpenSea, and that was like my first dive into it. And we gave them out. Um, we gave out physical versions of them in at Bitcoin Miami in 2000 in June,
Mhm.
with the intention to like launch the NFT versions. So
Mhm.
never got around to that bit. bec- So it was I didn't know about PFPs or free claims or anything like
Yeah,
that. So we tried to put them on sale. The pricing was off. The pricing was ridiculous, honestly. Like no one would have paid that much money for that. Um, and then I did a metaverse live reading in
that's really
Decentraland
cool.
where I did a live reading and then someone who was performing on the soundtrack actually performed. It was really cool and I definitely
Mm.
cried and so did the audience because the woman's voice was just like next level. And then after that, I thought it wasn't working and I just was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I don't understand how it works. It's not really I'm not really it's not really happening the way I wanted to,
Mhm.
and there were essential components that were missing from the experience that I was trying to build that I didn't know how to like navigate. So I kind of gave up for only 2 months, and then I got plunged right back into it.
And then, yeah, well, how did you get back in then? I mean, I know that you're working with Beatsdown now. Is that what pulled you back in? That sort of connection to them?
Yeah, so it was really wild. I was working on building like an experience with someone, um, and one of the people on the team was like, I have an investor that wants to invest $2 million in an NFT project. So I spent like 36 hours straight building out the idea I had in my head, which is this read to earn experience. And I did like all the slides and everything like that. I go downtown, I meet these people and present them this idea. They're like, well, we're looking for something a little bit more sophisticated technologically, but this is a really good idea. So by that
Mhm.
point, I'm like, okay, I have everything's ready. I need to get this around to people.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was talking to one of my colleagues, Rico, who was like, "You need to find a DAO. Like this project's too big for you to do it by yourself. Like you need resources, you need support."
Mhm.
And I started asking around, and then I got introduced to BeatsDAO through Pete. Pete and I share a really good friend, Eric, who I've known for over a decade. And Pete was like, "I need to introduce you to this DAO. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta get you in touch with Pete." And so then I sat with Pete, and he was like, "What is this world? Like, oh my gosh, I got to introduce you to the guys." And then we were off to the races. Like, it was really fast. And I would say
Yeah.
like in August, I was pretty sure I was going out. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to go back to work. I have to go back to
Yeah.
consulting. I got to find something to do. And that was a saving grace. Like, yeah, it just completely changed the trajectory of everything.
That's amazing. It's incredible how quickly things can move and do move in this space. It's just you blink and there's opportunities everywhere that can just come out. I'm really happy that that connection was made and you've been able to stay in Web3 and NFTs and sort of build out the project. Can you talk a bit more about sort of where we've come since then? So the last, say, 4, 5, 6 months of taking it from, you had this idea, this whole this world, all these concepts, but then you found BeatStyle and they had like maybe the resources and infrastructure to help you. What was sort of like the next step and what did that look like?
Yeah, once we got, the first investment round, I went from being an independent author to a CEO in like 24 hours.
Yeah,
Pretty crazy.
yeah.
And then we started to scale the team. We started with art, and then we went into technology, and then we did a lot of strategy. We really spent a lot of time on strategy because I wanted it to be this inclusive, transformative experience of like reconnecting people with their imagination, but in the way of like activating them to be creative, not just consuming creativity. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like I like to watch animations, but I also would like to make one day.
yeah.
I like to read books, but I also like to write them. And what I found is that a lot of people like to create, but they think they can't or they shouldn't,
Hmm.
or it's like not the thing to do, and that's just not true. So we built this experience that inspires people to not only be part of like consume the world, but also be part of it, and create within it. So spend a lot of time workshopping that and like what are the avenues in through the NFTs, what can you earn in NFTs, throughout the experience, so it's not always gated by price.
Hmm.
um, and then where's the community like congregate, and like what do they get to do there. So we spent a lot of time workshopping like the roadmap, and then after we had the roadmap, we were like, okay, now it's the onboarding. What is the community sentiment, and like where do we bring them into, what are we bringing them into? And so we built our home in Discord, um, and it's just like, thoughtful questions and choose your own adventure games and scavenger hunts and creative inspiration games. And yeah,
But
it's been really,
I
really
gotta
fun.
say, it's I've been in a lot of Discord, like hundreds, maybe over 1,000. Joining the LCOA, Lost Children of Andromeda Discord, top 5, maybe top 3, maybe the best experience I've had in terms of immersiveness and storytelling. Because to give listeners an idea, you join and normally you join a server and it's like click the rules button and you get full access. This it's a paragraph, a story, or like questions like what kind of character are you, or like what uh just almost like a quiz to like determine sort of which route you take and which sort of roles you get. And yeah, it wasn't just like one question, it was like I don't know how many there were, 4 or 5,
It was
maybe a bit more. three
three fundamental questions.
three fundamental questions, yeah.
Um, who you are, what's your power, and what's your position.
Yeah,
That's all that matters at the end of the world.
yeah. And yeah, so like just from the instant you join the Discord, you can tell you're in a story. You're in this universe, and yeah, it's magical, and I really, really, really love and appreciated that. I think that was really cool.
Thank you.
Another cool thing is the passport. So can you talk a bit about that and how you sort of yeah, what is the passport NFT? So and sort of how does that fit into the whole ecosystem?
Yeah, the password is really interesting because everyone does these allow lists and stuff,
Hmm.
and I've seen mint passes too. Obviously, a lot of people do mint passes as well. Um, and so this idea that you do certain things to get on a list, and then that list gives you access to a drop. So I was like, okay, I understand the mechanism.
Hmm.
The passport is more than that. It's your identity, and it's your access to the future. So
Hmm.
um, the thing we did differently was being able to, for example, imprint your wallet address on your passport, which for many people, or your ENS, which for many
Hmm.
people is a fundamental part of their identity. And so we wanted it to be sticky. Like I want to keep
Mm.
this because
Yeah.
it's like part of me, and it gives me access to what I would consider like my future. It's access to your
Mhm.
future. Um, and the passport actually fits in with the drop of the first NFT, which you have to have a passport to actually buy it. It's going to
Mhm.
check for your passport. It's going to make sure that your eligible passport is eligible to become synced.
Mhm.
And we wanted it to be this like cool little microchip, thinking about what it will look like in the future.
Mhm.
Um, and it was really fun to make and animate. And it's all, it comes from the same company as the main like technological company in the world.
Mhm.
So it's super immersive. It's just part of the immersive journey. And you can only earn passport eligibility through the games in the Discord. So
Mm.
participating in choose your own adventure games, contributing to the lore in your own way. The scavenger hunt will be another way that we release closer to launch. Um, so we wanted it to be fun. Like it's not meant to be shilly, but it's
Yeah.
like your own like playfulness
Yeah.
is is rewarded with these cool artifacts.
Yeah. No, that's such a just a great approach to filling out a mint list, basically, and getting people that are engaged with the community and the idea to sort of be rewarded or like to have like that level of access. How many passports are they going to be?
There's 1,111 passports, which is the exact same number of the first drop.
And the all right, and then the first drop is Sync. Is that right?
Yeah, CYNQUE.
CYNQE. And what is Sync?
Think is the main technology in the world. So everyone has sync, and it not only does it hold all of like my personal data, all of it. There's no like other things. It's all
Mhm.
contained within sync. It also distributes information, trusted information about the end of the world. So any alerts about natural disasters or sanctuaries closing down or faction uprisings, like any of that stuff, is all going to be coming communicated out through sync. So yeah, so that's something that I don't know. I think that came about like in 2017. I
Mhm.
thought of this idea of having something called Sync, like I named it. And so again, like everything that we did for the NFT project is like existing lore. Like I think the
Yeah.
passport is probably the only thing that we kind of created for the NFT project, but everything
Mhm.
else is pretty old. It's like between 4 and 30 years old. Um, so the sync is like a foundational technology of the 2052 ecosystem, and it's going to be important for the
Yeah.
long
That's I love when I talk to or just hear from a writer, an artist, and they're coming into NFTs, but they sort of digging deep and bringing characters or concepts or ideas from years and years or even decades in their past, because that's a part of them, and it's really like this extensive lore, and I think, yeah, I just love that, so I think that's really cool. What so like 1,111, that's it's not a small amount, but it's certainly not a large amount. It's not like a ton. Like it's not like these 10K, 5K projects. Um, I guess two questions. One is like, why did you settle on that number? And then the second is, what sort of planned after sync in terms of
run.
other drops in the pipeline already?
Yeah. So Sync has a pretty extensive like backstory on its own. Like
Yeah.
I have a whole book in my head called Sync, and it's just about the inception of the technology and stuff. So it was invented in Paris after a superstorm destroys. There's a superstorm that actually destroys Paris in 2030 in the
Mhm.
lore, and the scientist from that place was like, "This can never happen again. We have to like create a new technology that will actually protect people." Um, and so that's where sync is born from. And the first syncs, which are the prototypes, are actually only given to the survivors of the storm. So
Mm.
um, so there aren't 1,111 survivors only, but it's a small number. Um, so for example, when you go through the game, you actually experience a storm, and so it kind of follows the sequence of like experience the storm, getting a passport, getting a sync.
Mhm.
Um, and the 1,111 I came to because the tagline for sync is when we're synced, we're one.
Mm.
So all ones
Yeah.
in the collection. And I see that number a lot actually. Now that I've like embedded it, I see like 1111 all the time. It's just so weird.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of a I mean, I'm not like into numerology, but I understand that it's special. So it felt right. Like when it
Yeah.
came, I was like, ah, this is the number. So it wasn't about like we weren't doing like price adjustments and like all this
Mhm.
stuff. It was just like this is the number because it feels like it
Yeah.
makes so much sense and it ties in with the whole when we're synced, we're one. Like we are all one, essentially, is what that says.
Mm.
Um, so that's the number of syncs, and there are evolutionaries. So evolutionaries are the characters that are in the main story, but there's tons of evolutionaries that aren't in the main story, and they are basically awakened by a cosmic event, a landing that happens on Earth twice. There's two waves of evolutionaries that are created, the alpha generation and the omega generation of evolutionaries. So evolutionaries are basically humans with latent alien DNA
Mm.
that when they interact with this energy event, it awakens their alien heritage. So everyone's tied to one of 8 civilizations from the Andromeda galaxy, and that's where you get your kind of power set from, which we
Mhm.
call in this world potential. So awakened potential
Yeah.
is like the theme. So the next phase after sync is that people get to awaken their potential, and they can do that in the form of a character, and then that character can actually live in their world, and it can also live in the main world, if they choose to go that path, collecting the NFTs and writing the lore and putting it up for community vote and all of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, just listening to you talk about you just so casually weave in the backstory and the lore and the universe, and in 2030, there was this event in Paris, and there's these 8 is latent alien DNA. It's so wonderful. It's just like it brings me into this rich world, and I think that yeah, it's something that honestly over the last say 6 months, I've just sort of been noticing and recognizing that in NFT projects specifically, and really just the ones that have that focus on lore and storytelling to me are the ones that are the most exciting and are going to just be mainstays for years and years and decades to come. Um, this sort of opens up, like, I guess, so many more questions I have in terms of like what's your big vision, because clearly with all of this world you could have, go movies, you can go video games, you can go comics, you can go and do you have a specific direction? Do you want to do all of that? Do you want to focus on one thing? What's yeah a question I always ask, like, where do you see the project in 5 to 10 years perhaps?
Oh my gosh. I just want to say I too when I started to research NFTs, I noticed that there wasn't anyone
Mm,
of prominence that was like pioneering literature in NFTs. And literature is a space that I have been obviously in and around for a long time. And I just keep noticing the unwillingness or fear of stepping into certain new arenas. Um, and some of it's consumer sentiment, and some of it's just like, we've done it this way and it's worked. So why try something new? And I was like, well, I'm going to be the first or one of the
mhm,
first to actually like step into this. And then I noticed there weren't a lot of people that look like me in Web3 the same way there aren't a lot of people that look like me in sci-fi and fantasy. And I was just like, this is a golden opportunity to like really get this world out there. And as I started to go into that, I started to see the really great storytelling NFT projects that I wasn't seeing, when I first was kind of glossing
mm,
over what the big ones were. This kind of like I would call it like light lore, or
mm,
they kind of let the community, carry the lore forward if they want
yeah,
to. So there was a few that I thought were like fantastic. Like Loot was really cool. I love the way
yeah,
they completely let everyone do whatever they wanted with that. I thought
mhm,
it was genius.
yeah,
I love the Jenkins the Valet
mhm,
concept of like writing your character up. Forgotten Runes Wizard called the Book of Lore. Just like
yeah,
so many cool ways to inspire imagination. Um,
mhm.
so I just want to like say like I totally recognize the need for it, and now I think people being a lot more intentional about that piece, because I think the old way maybe without as much lore is people want something to connect to, and lore is
100%.
an important part of that. I wrote a fake article in Time magazine or something like that.
A
Uh,
fake article?
a fake article, yeah. I was challenged to write an article in the future about, where I am with the project
Mm,
as a
I love that.
gauge as to whether I was ready to take the next step or not. And I
Mhm,
did that in 2019, and I wrote it for 2025. So by then, we will be working on the new film, in talks to have a limited series, live action. There will be graphic novels out already. We will be halfway through the series, so 4 books in.
mhm.
Sorry, 5 books in. All of them will have cinematic audio, uh, cinematic style audiobooks with full cast. Yeah, everything. I want to do everything. Like I
Everything.
want
I
to do
love that.
everything. I see this being one of the most powerful franchises uh, in the world, and the important differentiating factor would just be the diversity that like a wide range of people can see themselves in this series, not only because of the way we did the NFTs, but also because of the way that the story's written and the characters that are there, and the perspective that I hope it brings to people.
I love it. I love it. I wanna do everything, and I mean, why not? Shoot for the stars, like, otherwise, what are we here for? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, right, yeah, so a big, topic in the NFT space, especially lately, is sort of like, intellectual property and the rights associated with it, and just the various models that different projects are using and experimenting with, uh, and, we have Loot, which is, obviously just the base level, it's fully CC0 and, people can do whatever they want. You have the Bored Apes with the full commercial rights to holders of the NFT, and then you have restricted commercial rights and everything in between. Yeah, just like what is your approach for LCOA, and what are your just thoughts on this sort of really just emerging area of IP in general?
It's really interesting, that idea, because I'm kind of like a keep it close to my chest person,
Mm,
but I also really like the idea of people being able to like do whatever they wanted with their characters.
right.
So we arrived at a commercial, like a free commercial license, basically, where you can
Hmm.
kind of like a Zuki, I would say, where you
Hmm.
can do, you can make animations, you can make comic books, you can make novels and everything of your characters, and go and make all the money you want to make
Yeah.
with your characters. And then you have the opportunity to like be part of our anthologies. You have the opportunity to be part of the main series. Um,
Hmm.
but that we would not only give you the ability to go do these things, we would actually support you in doing them if you wanted
Mm,
to, because again, in my experience working with indie, is that maybe I want to write a story, but I don't have the resources, or I don't have the framework, I don't have the character, so you can kind of
yeah.
like use what's existing to write. People do that with like if you there's a term like Lovecraftian lore, so people take the world of
Hmm.
Lovecraft and then they write their own story in it, inside that like
Yeah.
framework and those rules and everything like that. So it's kind of like that. But I think that it's important for people to be able to use the characters in the ways that they want to, because otherwise, like, I don't really know why I'm buying the thing,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't understand like what's the use for me, um, unless I like to like I do like to collect cards and stuff like that. So there's
Hmm.
that. But I think this is a creative space. Like Web3 is a creative space, and people are rediscovering their creativity in this space. And so the more that they're able to and called to use it, I think the more powerful the project experience is, which people may not understand actually going into it. But it's like I feel like something's missing, but I don't know what it is,
Hmm.
and it's the thing that you're like looking for, right? Like I sit at a desk
Yeah.
all day, and I'm collecting these pictures, or I'm collecting these assets, these digital assets, these rare digital assets. But there's something that happens when I collect it, and then I'm like, okay, now what? And it's like giving people the path to like go do the thing that maybe they've always
Hmm.
wanted to do and never thought
Yeah.
they could. Um, but now they can, because their asset is worth $150,000. Like,
Yeah.
yes, let's make a movie about it. I wanted to show you something else, but you can go ahead and ask if you have another question.
Yeah. I was gonna ask if you have sort of a dream collaborator or partner, like if you could work with anyone in the world, or have someone sort of yeah, just partner with them, who would that be?
Okay. Lil Nas X for sure. I actually met him one time, and he bought my book, my first book, Zosma, at Melrose
Amazing.
Trading Post, and I was like, "We're gonna work together in the future." He's like, "Sure."
Manifesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. My friend TT, she's an amazing director and musician. My friend Idris, who's a technologist. I would love to build technology. I actually modeled the doctor who invented sync after him, and
Mhm.
he's launching a project called Link this weekend, LNQ, and I was like, I called him and I was like, "I'm really freaked out right now. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
building, but it just sounds a lot like this." And so
Mm.
maybe the future is actually happening. And then I'm trying to think who else. Like, of course, Beyonce would be amazing. I always have this list ready, and now I'm like blanking. I don't know, like any Willow Smith, like anyone like
Mm.
wildly independent, creative, imaginative, like that's like unapologetically themselves. Like those are
Mhm.
the types of people that I want to work with, and like those are the types of people that are, that are my like TT, Idris, my friend Andrew,
Mhm.
Jared, who's one of the artists on the team. Like that's those are the types of people that I want to work with, and the team that we are working with is that
Mhm.
like they all have
Cool.
their own creative experience that they like to do out in the world, and then we
Mhm.
come together to build this but we all have our own thing that we
Yeah.
like too, so
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, I hope you get to work with all of them at some point.
I
And
hope so too.
yeah.
I wanted to show you these pictures because I think it's really funny how this NFT piece of like generating PFPs has come to pass. So
Mhm.
the backstory on these is that when I was like probably like 13 or 14, I would always
Mhm.
like get a bunch of printer paper and like use my thumb to like cut it up. And I
Mhm.
basically like drew all these characters that I would eventually put in the stories that I was writing.
The virtual background is messing it up a bit, but
Yeah,
yeah,
there we go.
there we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I had all these characters that I basically was like planning to put in future stories, and I just wanted to have them down. So when I wanted
That's
to
so cool.
pull somebody in, let me just go and like find the card. But I never ended up doing that. So it's funny because I feel like the release of the evolutionaries is actually like the manifestation of this in
Yeah,
real life, and
it's
I don't
amazing.
know, it's wild.
How many is that? 'Cause, like, some people are gonna be,
Um,
listening and not watching the video, but to me, that's a big stack of paper.
I'd say it's maybe a couple hundred, maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
maybe
a
a couple
lot.
hundred. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I was very
to
excited.
to hand draw and yeah,
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. I love it, I love it, I love it. Um, you mentioned the team before, and we were talking about the dream team, and that you're already working with it, or with your dream team already. Who else is on the team? Like, how many of there are you working on this project at the moment?
Yeah, there's seven of us on the team. So we have Matthias Omatola. He's amazing. He's the art director. He's the one kind of driving Sync and all of that creation. We have Kendra. Kendra is in charge of all of our content. So any of the tweets and the
Mhm,
Discord messaging you see go out, that's going to be Kendra. Tatiana is in charge of Discord experience, so she's the one behind the scenes building all of the channels and the games and just engaging with the mods, making sure everyone knows what's going on. We have Shahar, who's in charge of technology. So he's actually working on front end and kind of the Web3 integration piece. We have Mousedev, who's doing our Solidity, such a blessing. Um, let's see, we have Bree, who's our project manager. She just makes sure we all stay in line. And then I am the alleged no, I'm the CEO, and I do a lot of writing, a lot
mhm,
of writing copy and a lot of creative, creative oversight and all of those things.
mhm.
I call myself more of a chief creative officer that like
Love that.
dabbles in the technology piece just to make sure
Yeah,
everything's moving along. That was cool. And then one of yeah, so yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, that sounds like a killer team right there. Um, all right, now I'm cognizant of time, so we'll probably have to wrap up shortly. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I could talk to you for hours and hours. Uh,
Well, I was gonna
and
say I also want to mention Jordan and Sasha and Supa Dan because they've been
of course,
like
yeah.
Pete's been helping out a lot out with like sound effects and stuff like that on our videos and just like giving creative input. Jordan and Sasha really have been supporting the team and kind of the Web3 piece, because many of
Hmm.
us are not Web3 native. And
Yeah.
then Supa has been really, really integral in the community piece. So, like, as a group, this project would not have been the same without all of us
Hmm.
participating. Um, and then I even had a friend of mine who helped me build a project named Rico, like in the early stages, just help strategize and stuff like that. So to get like together, we all did a lot of like really powerful did a lot of really powerful things. So
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Amazing. Amazing. Surrounding yourself with good people is just it's the key to success in anything in life, but especially in this space, I think. And sounds like you excuse me, sounds like you've done that while I'm coughing along up here. um okay, so let's talk details, I guess, in terms of like the mint or coming up. When is the mint price? Can people still get a passport? And yeah, like imagine someone's listening to this, watching this, and they're like, I want to get involved. This sounds amazing. I want to be part of it. Yeah, can they still be, and what does that look like?
Yeah, we still have some passport allocations available. Um, so you can still earn passports. You can find the giveaway through a community, or you can join our Discord and play the games. And we are awarding passport eligibility um, on a regular basis. So that's the most fun way, because you get to
Mm,
play and explore and all that stuff.
yeah.
Um, and then the mint. So the mint window will open May 27th,
Hmm.
and it will be for passport holders only,
Hmm.
eligible passport holders. Also, if you want to buy a passport, you can go on OpenSea and buy a passport.
Right.
But
Right.
that,
Yeah.
that, that's like, people do that too.
Yeah.
So the Sync Mint opens May 27th. The price is 0.3333.
I love it. I mean,
And
your
yeah.
numbers are ones, my numbers are threes. So
Oh,
I
amazing.
love
Oh,
it.
that's
Yeah.
perfect. Yes, amazing. Um, was there significance to the three for you?
It started off when I created my screen name. Zeneca was taken, and I was 33 years old, and I was like, all right, let's go Zeneca 33. But three has always been my favorite number. And then when I launched my NFT project, it was just all right. Let's mint price 0.033, and I just now have just run with the threes, and now threes are my number.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the mint price will be 0.3333
Hmm.
for four threes.
May 27th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oh, and just to clarify, I'm not sure we mentioned it, but the passports, they're free, right? People can claim
The
them.
passports are a free claim. Yeah,
Yeah.
passports are free claim. So when you get in the Discord, you will earn the passport eligible role upon, being awarded passport
Mhm.
eligibility, and then you actually go to an immersive site where you mint the passport.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a
yeah, so
very
it's
cool
very
experience.
fun.
Yeah, I did
Thank
that,
you.
live excuse me, live on a call with you and the Beatstyle people, the other day, and it was a lot of fun. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I really, really encourage anyone interested, join the Discord, take part in the games, try and get eligibility, and then go through that experience. It's different to almost anything else you'll see in the space, so, yeah.
yeah, and I hope you'll get synced with us too.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah, I mean, this is to me, this is just like the beginning of what's going to be an epic, many, many, many years journey of a world being created. And I'm excited to be part of it and see what you and the whole team builds and creates. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. I,
Yeah,
I just I want to say years is like, yeah, because I still have 9 more books to write.
there
So
you
if
go.
anyone's like, there's I like think about like the rug pull thing is like, I was gonna write these books anyway, so now they're
Yeah,
just gonna be intertwined with the NFT experience. But you know, my life's work is basically that I would not die until I finish this series. So
yeah.
that's happening.
Um, I guess one more question on that. So it's a 10 book series, right, in total? How did you sort of settle on 10? Like, already in advance? Like, have you already do you have a rough idea what each book is gonna be, or do you just want to do 10 and figure it out as it goes along?
I already wrote 8 of the 10. Um,
Okay, then.
so
Okay, then.
it was 10 when I was a kid, and I
I
wrote
see, I
10
see, I
through
see.
7, and then I wrote 1 through
Yeah.
7 and then 10 and skipped 8 and 9 because it was like, it's 2 books and they're connected, and I don't feel like doing that right now. So when I came back to it, I was like, "Ah, it's 10 books." They're
Yeah.
restructured, of course, but yeah, it's
Mhm.
always been 10. I don't know what it is about the Roman numerals. I used to be obsessed with them as a
Mhm.
kid, so I just wanted that X book.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's amazing, yeah.
yeah, so it will be 10 books. I already bought all of the URLs for every title.
I
So
love it.
they're supremely planned. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. We will have links to absolutely everything discussed in the show notes below. So if you want to join the Discord and Twitter accounts and websites and everything, find them there. Any final words before we wrap up?
I'm just really appreciative that of you having me on, and just the community that we've built is amazing, and they're starting to gel together very well, and I'm just grateful for the team and Beat Style, and all of this has been incredible. Just a real it's just really shown what's possible in the world, when you walk through doors that are open. And I just want to show people that, it's if you want something and you believe in something, like it actually can happen. Um, and that's pretty much, I think that's my purpose, is to like reinvigorate imagination to where people are like, I'm going to create the thing I've always wanted to create because I see that it's possible and there's nothing standing in my way. So
That was that was beautiful. I think let's end it there. That's a perfect note to end on. So thank you.